Let's go ahead and talk about this BYU and Navy game here. And this will be one of our spotlight videos here, BYU and Navy. And quick turnaround for this one, obviously, here being the Monday night college football game. Some interesting line movement here in this game so far. Navy opened a 3-point favorite. And of course, these opening lines have been out for quite some time once we knew who was going to be playing who for this week. But now BYU, pretty much a market wide 1.5 point favorite out there. Is that a surprising move to you, Kyle?
No, I think that's the right move. I think, I'd like to have BYU +3. That sounds good to me. But the current number, that's about where it should be, I think. You look at the market percentages here, 55% of the bets on Navy, 63% of the money on BYU. So we certainly have some sharp money here on BYU. Looking at this game, I think that BYU's front seven on defense is the strength of their team. The secondary is the question mark, losing two star safeties from last year. But is Navy's not the team that's going to test that pass defense. We know that. So if BYU is strong in the front seven, we understand that running the triple option or defending the triple option is not equal to stopping the run against a normal team. So I'm not saying that BYU is just going to shut them down offensively. However, I think it certainly helps BYU that they're not going to be tested on the deep ball here because, I mean, Navy doesn't really throw it much at all. I think it really hurts Navy a lot without Perry at quarterback. Jasper, the offensive coordinator, really molded the offense around him last year, and it really worked very well. Who's going to be the quarterback this year? Who's going to play well there at Navy? I think they're going to keep it open because they don't really have somebody that's stepping in that they're really that confident about. So they have really good running backs, as they always do, very deep there. We know Navy's going to run the ball almost every time. I'm going to be surprised if BYU does a really bad job of stopping the option. They have seen it before, and BYU is a pretty strong front seven. If you look at BYU's numbers at the end of last year, they really improved a lot in the last 6 games on defense, and where that started was the defensive front. So I think BYU's defensive front is strong. On the other end, I think BYU's offense is a bit hard to figure out. So, Wilson starts at quarterback, but I mean, is he their best quarterback? I don't know. I mean, they have some really good backups there who played very well when Wilson was out. I think he'll probably be on a short leash. If he doesn't play very well, we're going to see the backups here because they were very good. I think BYU's offensive line is very strong, but if you look at their wide receivers, they're definitely subpar. Running backs aren't great either. So, theoretically, I would assume that BYU's offense gets a little bit better because their offensive line is so good and they have very good quarterback play. At the same time, I don't think they have a lot of great weapons on the outside. Navy's defense has definitely improved from a couple of years ago where it was a major weakness. Navy is stronger in the secondary than they are on the defensive line. You would think BYU would be able to run the football some here because Navy is not really big up front. BYU a strong offensive line. I think some teams were hurt more than others by no spring practices. I think Navy was one of those teams that was probably hurt by that. That's a new quarterback that really needed some reps. To me, I look at this game and I think, okay, BYU's my lean. I don't love it at the current number. It's right about where I think it should be. I also lean to the under, and again, there's been some money coming on the under to where the line was higher than it is right now. It's hard to take, under 48, 48 and a half. But, my leans in this game would be BYU and the under. And like I said, I think, we know more about what BYU is. We don't know what Navy is right now. And to me, I kind of fall back to okay, this is the team that I know what I'm going to get out of more than the other team.
Well, and I think too, what's going to be really interesting to see about this game is what happens with this line as some more public money starts leaking in. Because look, it's a standalone Monday night college football game. There's going to be a pretty good handle on this game, and Army looked so good last week against Middle Tennessee State that people may kind of sit there and go, well, this is another option team, and it's a service academy, and they're very regimented, and they're going to be efficient. They're going to do everything well. That may not exactly be the case here. I mean, first of all, BYU is a much better team than Middle Tennessee State. That is a big part of the fact that, look, people are going to say, well, Army did this. Yeah, but Navy's playing BYU. They're not playing Middle Tennessee State. A Middle Tennessee State team that never sees the option, never really sees great efficient rushing attacks that can grind them down. BYU is a very physical team. They always have been. They're also a pretty regimented team. They have a lot of older players, guys that have gone and done the mission trips, stuff like that. BYU is almost always a very experienced roster. So if they need to buy in against the triple option, they will do that. Whereas for Middle Tennessee State, Rick Stockstill's just trying to get his team together, try to figure out his offense, his defense against the more traditional scheme. Maybe they didn't put a ton of prep time in to the triple option, and quite frankly, it didn't look like they did. For Navy, like you said, how do you replace Malcolm Perry? I mean, how do you replace a guy that meant so much for this program? We had that question about Keenan Reynolds a few years ago. They wound up doing that. Do they just churn out another guy that masterfully runs this option? It's a possibility, but it's something that I probably would have to pay to see here. Again, as you mentioned, this is a sharper move in nature on BYU, who is making that trip. And look, this BYU team, like you said, questions on offense. Who winds up being the guy at quarterback? Does he wind up being the right guy? But the fact that they have options, the fact that if things aren't going well over the course of this game, they can pivot. They can make a move to somebody like Romney or somebody else. They have the opportunity to do that here. So for BYU, I think their physicality helps. I think the fact that they've seen the option before is something that definitely helps them. And I think for Navy here too, defensively, their defenses are always undermanned and undersized. In the AAC, you can get by with that because a lot of teams play the spread. They'll spread you out. They'll throw it all over the field, stuff like that. BYU is a very physical team, generally more of a run-heavy team. I think Jeff Grimes is clearly a much better offensive coordinator for this group than Ty Detmer was. I agree with the line move. My line on this game is BYU -2, so it is right there in the range that I have. And like you said, with the pregame line moves, the totals come down over at almost a touchdown. The sides flip the favorite. Navy was -3. Now BYU -1. I think you find a live betting opportunity in this game. You see how BYU looks against that option early on, because Navy is a team that has a hard time adjusting if the other team is shutting them down because they are so one-dimensional on offense. So I think tonight, a prime example of why live betting is the future in this business, because I just don't think there's a lot of pre-flop value on this game.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think maybe you want to take BYU if they get down a little bit early, unless they really look like they can't stop that run, because we know what's coming from Navy. If they run the triple option constantly, BYU just gives up 8 or 10 yards every play. I wouldn't be excited to bet BYU. On the other hand, maybe Navy gets a defensive touchdown or runs it back quite a ways and has a really short field and scores right away. I'd be more inclined to bet BYU on the live line.